1.5 Multiplying rationals. So multiplying, welcome to a really nice, easier part of fraction operations, multiplying. What I really love about multiplying rational numbers or multiplying fractions specifically is that you don't have to find a common denominator, you can just multiply through. Use what you know about multiplying integers and multiplying fractions to evaluate each product of rational numbers. So product just means multiplication. And basically, this is just a real fancy way of saying, hey, answer these questions. I just want to remind us about integer multiplication. If we have a negative number and we want to multiply it by another negative number, that turns into a positive number. If we have a negative number multiplied by a positive number or a positive number multiplied by a negative number, that turns into a negative number. And if we have a positive number times a positive number, that results in also a positive number. Okay, we've gone over this already, but I just wanted to have it just in your notes here. Okay, 6 times 8 is going to be 48. Two positive numbers, easy peasy. Negative 7 times 9, I know is going to be negative because there's one negative. Negative 63. Hey, there is two negative numbers here, and so two negative numbers multiplied together is a positive number. 8 times 6 is going to be 48. And then 6 times negative 3, it's going to be negative because we have one negative number. 9 times 3 is going to be 27, so negative 27. Okay, so then multiplying fractions is just a very similar thing. We're noticing that there are no negatives here, so we're just going to multiply across. 6 times 8. Actually, I'll write that down just so that you see. You don't have to write down the step, but 6 times 8 goes on top. And then on the bottom goes 5 times 7. I have a funny feeling that it's going to be real easy just to multiply through. 6 times 8 is going to be 48, and then 5 times 7 is going to be 35. The only thing that is not quite perfect about this answer is that it's an improper fraction. So I ask myself, how many times does 35 go into 48? One whole time. So then 1 times 35 is 35. And the difference between 35 and one group of 35 is going to be 13. So it becomes 1 and 13 over 35. Now I'm looking at my answer and there are no kind of common factors here. So this is lowest terms and a mixed number. So my answer is just as I would like it. If you're having some troubles converting from the improper to the mixed, just let me know. I can give you some exercises, or we can talk about how you want to present your answer. But just come and talk to me about it if you have questions. Okay, so then I'm noticing that there's one negative sign here, so I know that my answer is going to be negative. So 7 times 9 is going to be 63. And then 4, oh, come on, buddy. And then 4 times 2 is going to be 8. So then I ask myself, how many times does 8 go into 63? Well, if it was 64, it would be 8 times, but it's just under 64. It's 63. So I know that it goes in 7 full times. I want to make sure that my answer here is negative, so I'm going to put the negative out in front. So negative 7, and then 8 times 7 is 56. The difference between 56 and 63 is going to be 7. So I'm left with 7/8. Another way that I just did it quick in my head, I'm like, 63 is 1 away from 64. 7 over 8 is 1 away from it being a whole. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but it does in my brain. Okay, so I have a negative times a negative, and just to remind ourselves, that's going to result in a positive. It's going to result in a positive answer. A negative 8 times negative 6 is going to be positive 48. And 3 times 5 is going to be 15. Now, if I look at this, I know that 3 goes into 15. And if I go 4 plus 8, that's 12. That is a multiple of 3. That is a multiple of 3. So I know that 3 can go into both of these. So if I go 48 divided by 3 and 15 divided by 3, I get something that looks like 48 divided by 3 is 16. And 15 divided by 3 is 5. This is way easier to work with. Because I don't want to think about how many, well, I mean, 15 is easy, but what happens if it was like 27? You know, how many groups of 27 goes into something like 147? It just makes it a lot easier when we're working with smaller numbers. So the questions I asked myself is, how many times does 5 go into 16? 3 whole times, and what's left over? Well, 16 is 1 away from 15, 1 bigger than 15, so I'm left with 1/5 like that. So a quicker way to do this is I can cancel. So I can cancel anything in the top with anything in the bottom. I say that 3 goes into itself 1 time. 3 goes into 6 2 times. So I can go 8 times negative 2 is 16. So I can bypass this whole step and just go directly to this one. Okay, if I do canceling. Okay, so then last but not least, let's multiply out this one. 9 times 3 is 27. 2 times negative 10 is going to be negative 20. So I know my overall sign on this thing is going to be negative. I'm going to put it out here. And I'm noticing that like 3 and 9 have common factors, but they're both in the top. Okay, I'm looking for common factors in the top and the bottom, and there are none. Okay, so how many times does 20 go into 27? 1 full time, and then you have 7 20ths left over. And that's that. So this is what happens if you just have straight up fractions to multiply. But what about when you have mixed numbers that you need to multiply? The first step is always going to be change to improper. Then the next step is multiply across. And then the last step is always going to be simplify. Okay, so first things first, let's change it to improper. I'm just going to write it a little bit bigger. So 4 3/4 multiplied. Whenever there's no sign for multiplication, it always means multiplication. Okay, so negative 2 4/5. Okay, 4 times 4 is 16 plus 3 is going to be 19. So this becomes, instead of 4 3/4, it becomes 19 over 4. This one I know is going to be negative, so I'm going to put the negative there right away. 2 times 5 is 10, plus 4 is 14. So then we're left with 14. Sorry. My pen ran out of ink. Just kidding. It can't digitally, but it lost connection somehow. So this is going to be 14 over 5. And then you straight up multiply across. Now I'm gonna take kind of two paths here. I'm gonna have an alternate solution over here, but I'll do just the regular. Okay, 19 times negative 14 is going to be negative 266. 4 times 5. So I'm gonna put my equal sign. 4 times 5 is 20. Now I'm noticing that they're both even numbers, so I'm going to divide by 2. Divide this guy by 2 and divide this guy by 2. So this becomes negative 133 over 20 divided by 2 is 10. I like dividing by 10. It's easy. So how many times does 10 go into 133? Well, I know for sure it's going to be negative. I know for sure that I can fit 13 tens into there, because 13 times 10 is just 130. You just add a 0. And then what's left? 3 tenths. And that's it. So I said that I would do another little step difference just with canceling. So I'll just show you how I would be able to eliminate this step right away. Okay. I say 2 goes into 4 2 times. 2 goes into 14 7 times. 19 times negative 7 is going to be negative 133. See how I just skipped that step? 2 times 5 is going to be 10. And then I can simply put it into a mixed number. 10 goes into 133, 13 whole times, and then 3 tenths are left over. And that's that. Okay? So, in summary, multiplying is simple. There are 3 steps. Change to improper if you need to. Step number 2, multiply across. Maybe cancel if you feel up to it. And then 3, simplify. So that means mixed number and lowest terms.